What? Hello. Hello. Holla. Sorry, I was examining the webcam in utter disgust. We're playing Warframe, as we do. Alright. We finished New War and did the Zariman yesterday. It was fine. I have a granola to bar. Peanut butter. Sorry, I looked aged. This will hopefully not kill me. Warframe. Play Warframe. Did I do any? I did a little off camera. I don't know. I'm having a lot of trouble managing my time. So, sorry, I really should've. I'm a bad streamer. I've been real shit about managing my time. So I didn't get, to do as much off-stream grinding as I wanted to do. So I only got like 2 Requiem relics, no Void Traces at all, which I really need.
You've been bad.
I think she's mad at me. Erdid.
Ooh, I win.
Oh, maybe she's having a great time.
So much fun with you, little meat. Ooh, what shall we play next?
We got the Zariman just kind of hanging out here now, which is cool. But can I? Oh, you can. Oh, these change. Dormizon. Oh yeah, I mean, I'll drop some Entrati Landthorns. But I think we're just gonna get into quests. We're gonna quest. I don't know, Whispers in the Walls because it looks cool. I kind of want to do Veilbreaker because it sounds cool. I don't know. Let's roll a d12. 1 to 3 is, well, 1 to 3, 3 to 6, etc. numbers. I have a d12 in my bag over there, but I'm just gonna do it. Roll a d12. I accidentally rolled 2. Just the 1. I rolled a 3rd. I'm rolling a lot of them. How do I reset? No, reset. I just want 1 d12. Alright, let's go with the first one. I rolled like 80. 11. Whispers in the Walls. Lloyd has had strange dreams and desperately needs to show you something. Okay. Mission tasks, the Calmos sequence. No hesitation, let's just get into it. Alright. I feel like the webcam's kind of blown out. That wasn't the right screen. That also isn't the right screen. I meant to be in studio mode. I haven't seen the. Whoa. Hello? What the hell? Who's this? You're in the wrong game. Watchdogs looking ass. But he's even got the damn, he's hacking. This cross promo with Watch Dogs Legion? That's a powerful yawn. He's got the pattern on his coat reminds me of the pattern that's on Otak and Lloyd. Lotad, if you will. I'm sure that's on purpose. I'm just wondering. I don't know what the significance of it is. Man's got a fucking... Alright. What is happening? He's got a PS2? No, it's a book. So he's got, just based on his hands, I think he's is he an Entradi? Whoever this well-dressed fella is. They got the big hands. Get off the space coffin. Get in the space coffin? Is this a flashback? Alright, early predictions. This guy is who either Lloyd or Otak used to be. Now he's in a little machine. Used to be an assistant of this man from the past. Then the repercussions of these actions are now unfolding before thine eyes.
Oh, my lonely vigil is over. Follow me, Tenno, and on no account wake the family. Despite their conflicts, they sleep in peace. But a solitary dream claims me.
Huh?
You must understand. Constructs cannot dream.
Oh, okay. Well, now I understand the problem.
I have.
It's because you're that man in the cutscene we just saw. I'm telling you.
One single name repeats.
Trent.
Kalimos.
Kalimos! That's much cooler. Yo, you good, man?
The memory surface long locked away. This was no dream, Tenno. It was a precept. The Kalimos sequence.
Kalimos. Interesting. I'm here for it. I'm listening.
I must fulfill this dormant precept. The Kalimos sequence has begun, and it cannot be undone.
As long as you're not, gonna launch a nuclear bomb at the Earth, that can help you out. Maybe. Alright. This seems sinister. Holy shit. That was a cool animation. That looked awesome. This is foreboding as shit. Oh. This has been back here, huh? Now look at these.
Lok, void. From brooding gulfs are we beheld by that which bears no name. Its heralds are the stars it fells, the sky and earth aflame. Corporeal laws are unwrit as suns and love retreat. To cosmic madness, laws submit, though stalwart minds entreat. In luminous space, blackened stars they gaze, accuse, deny. Roiling, moaning, this realm of ours in madness lost shall die. Carrion hordes trill their profane accord with eldritch plans. To cosmic forms from tangent planes, we end as we began.
My 3 a.m. existential crisis be like? Just with less words.
Netra. Decay. Time, to us, is all but conquered. Our sacred Kuva moves us on to new skin. We numb to our daily, yearly trifles, and remedy those memories that bring lasting misery. With all our misdeeds, our excess, our indignity, we are haunted by nothing. But not for me, for with each passing day, there grew within a tumorous idea. It was minute in those early days, the pale reaching digits severed on the floor, studied with reverence, with greed. And it swelled larger in the latter days. The regal domes, the rail dedications, the unholy Zariman parade.
You might hear my Discord. I forgot it was not open. Ignore that.
But at what cost? I never spoke of him, that man, trapped in the wall. And while there have been countless souls who have followed me through with their light skippers and field wave skins and vari-eyed instruments, not a single one ever saw him. Me. And so it is that I will not take the Kuva now, or ever again. This is the last skin I'm in. Because of this idea, that I cannot be sure that in all that smoked commotion, in all that panic and fear, in that bending light and blinding dark, was it I who escaped? Or the other?
So, my understanding of that is, guy at the start of the quest must be this dude who's talking, this Albrecht Entrani, because he had Entrani hands. Is that racist? It's like an Orochimaru thing. You're using Kuva to get new bodies or something. It sounds like, I don't know. I don't know if this is again like I don't know if there's like supplemental material I could have known about before this, but it sounds like he had some kind of option. People were drunking themselves off the Kuva, but he chose to push against it. But maybe that's why he's in that weird crypto sleep casket now. Did I say crypto?
Tiny.
Crypto? No, I don't.
An old name, unspoken in the centuries since my mother reared me. A soft hiss, soothing as a viper's gaze. Little Bengal. The other me reached out, offering his hand, gliding toward me without moving, as though the distance between us was now collapsing. A confusion, most euphoric, filled my mind. With the shred of wit that remained, I decided that I should run for my life. At once, crazed and frantic, I fled. But I made no forward progress. Instead, the world compressed evermore around me, as though I were an anchor pulling the shore to reach. When I arrived at the door,
Anchors don't do that,
the
moron.
door arrived at me. I howled, hurling myself inside, out. And then and there I was.
Kingdom
Lost
Hearts.
and unlost, howling on the floor in harmony with my wretched Kalimos, lacerated in flesh and heart, scattered as the bell glass, spilling blood and stomach on the cold stone floor. But I sensed the other there at the wall's breach behind me, reaching still. I screamed, but my voice was gone. Forever. I looked, but my eyes would never see again. I swept my fist across the floor, snatching broken shards, and in gripping tightly, I filled my hands with ink. Close it, I wrote.
Is Kalimos the cat? No way, right? What's about a damn cat? What the fuck?
The senselessness of it, the paradoxic, the vague, untimed form.
This guy's got a great voice, by the way.
Not, for I stood there confronted by myself, a twin but no brother.
I think I'm reading these backwards also.
But with dimension. Behind him, no horizon but a vast broiling sea of caustic light pierced at random by black pin stars. And closer,
Dude, that's so cool.
around me, a gale of flowing vapor, profane in color, billowing relentlessly into the nascent lack, seeking all directions. I was standing on a precipice of familiar stone, jagged and unanchored as though cleaved directly from the very floor of my laboratory. I wondered at the vapor's path, smoking outward more, leaving behind now the walls, the filigree gold, the rare cuts of marble from my home. I knew at once the vapor's source. I turned away, back toward the wall, the trapezoid I had yawed into it. Vapor erupted inward at the gap, but not just from there. For as I rolled my eyes back, I saw the same. A great steam of scintillation smoking out from my skull. Dumb in awe, I faced toward my chimerical twin. He spoke.
What the hell? Man's got a little demon in him. But instead of... Alright, my very base level understanding of these four is like weird existential nightmare twin. They separated somehow. He separated from it. The color man separated from the original man, maybe. Him and the cat got separated. They had the option to maybe find a new form. Or maybe because he didn't find a new form, this happened. With this Kuva thing? Took a nap. Is napping. Don't know.
Thas. Chaos. Death was on me, I was certain. I was face down, eyes clenched. My heart pulsing the last of its seconds, and my lungs burning.
I guess I don't know the order of all this.
A sudden nostalgia gripped me.
If there is an order.
For memory,
I mean, there must be an order.
Just past the fumbling pitch of a child's song. Yet all these thoughts seemed to steal away from my mind like smoke through a vent. I would die empty. I then became aware of another sensation. Physical.
Horny.
A web of pain. Needles itching into my arm.
Okay.
Once I realized I was alive.
I was getting a
Laying
tattoo.
in the bill's shattered ceraglass.
I just fell
looked
asleep.
Ground, warm stone. The floor of my laboratory. So, I had never left. And so, I had failed. Again. I heard a crunch alongside me. Someone stepping through the shattered glass. With great shame, I gasped and rose my head to face my daughter above me. But as I opened my eyes, it wasn't her. It was me.
Oh, he put himself in that little coffin thing and made him like a weirdo clone. Is that what happened? That was his failed experiment. He made a little weirdo demon clone of himself. If you hold the aim button, you kind of just walk like a creepy weirdo. That's fun. I don't like that.
Order. The calipers yawed open the wall between worlds, stretching there a black trapezoidal gap. A door, a mouth. It yawned in the light of the room, splintering it to mesmerizing, unearthly hues. And I, inside the bell, dropping obliquely toward it from my gallows. Mass and time rippled as a sudden vortex
So is
jarred
this-
before me. My head was vapor, my feet lodestone. The bell around me flexed like a rat paralyzed in a winding, gulping snake. I faltered in the awe of it, stumbling against the cellar-glass, and with that, shifted the bell's path through the wall. It grazed the caliper membrane, the edge of the door. No worldly edge was as thin, as sharp as could split even light. As the bell faintly grazed it, the seriglass was all at once rendered like strips of flesh by Dax Blade. My enclosure was...
Who's Dax Blade?
Instant, but still, I fell, sideways, into the void.
So, yeah, I guess what I obviously I could be full wrong, but my guess is that the start was pre-experiment, and this is like after this weird experiment. He seems to have, I don't know, found the void, got some weird void shit going on. It's always about the void with this game. They're all voided up.
Jahu. Form. My departure was a day less than any other. When I stepped
I guess maybe that thing, maybe the thing he got in was the bell.
No skeptical onlookers,
That's what he called it?
no regal send-off. They all had given up on me and my paradoxical formulations. The wasted years had all shown the void to be just that.
Or maybe it's something
Nothing,
completely different, and I'm fully wrong.
No entanglement.
But it's fun to theorize.
To spacefaring ambitions, a dead end. On the day, my laboratory was mostly vacant of witnesses, most of all of expectation. Only my sluggish attendants, my sagacious Kavat, Kalimos, and of course my daughter.
No, okay, Kalimos is not the Kabad.
With inconsistent vigor. In those eyes...
So that guy was Kalimos,
I did see a terrible...
who I'm guessing is Lloyd.
Of a man that did not exist. A brave and principled man about to make history. In truth, he was a void himself. An outcast, a joke, a nothing. Driven by my humiliation, failure had made me bitter and reckless. I would dive into the depths myself to prove them all wrong. I gave the signal. My daughter grasped the lever. Kalimos then belted out a desperate, rasping growl. But it was too late.
Sorry, I'm having a crisis of character. I'm wondering if it's only fun to theorize, if you're right, and if that makes me a selfish dickhead. Probably not, but I'm... Oh. Sorry, I'm having existential dread.
Zata. Truth. It began long before us. We who now live our perfect and dull, endless lives. It began long before these moon palaces and body markets hurling around our golden sun. It began long before our light coil thinkers, our radiation wars, our oil, smoke. It began with us, the continuity and its twin, wanderlust. The need for unseen shores deep in our marrow. No judge, jester, queen, or king can escape this old blood. We are nomads, eternal. And when No ocean, mountain, or sky could contain us. Our gaze hungered starward. Afar, they mocked us with their brittle light, winking and jeering like dangling Iotans, forever out of reach, illuminating the truth. Immortal as we are, we die with the sun. That's where I come in.
Still don't know what his goal was.
I have one responsibility in the Kalimos sequence. Awaken the sleeper.
Oh, so he is still
But
asleep.
I cannot do it alone. Please, assist me once more.
I thought it's made it sound like the sleeping bit didn't work out, but maybe wrong as hell. Well, at least that's how I interpreted it. It didn't make it sound like that. That's just how I interpreted it. But, you know, we're learning. We're figuring it out. Oh, these are the two things we saw when the door closed. Okay. Like right at the start. You think that computer still works? We probably make a good, some good money off that thing. Lloyd? Lloyd? Why? He like caved it in. I thought he was just like closing it up.
I fear we are off the edge of the map and into the domain of monsters. Master Entrati never completed his final project, the Vessels. The sequence dictates they cannot awaken before the sleeper does.
Well.
Do you hear that? Let us hope the sleeper is untroubled by such strangeness. Find them.
Oh, this seems poor. Find the sleeper. Wasn't? I guess we don't know he was in that coffin, but wasn't he though? Damn, this place is wide. Entrati Obols. Dollars. Hello? Hope he's cool with me breaking his shit. Okay, I'm corrosive. Okay, yep, okay. Some of it just drops you anger goo. That's fair. I just upgraded my bow a lot, so I think everything is doomed. I got him. Like a glove. Hello?
Master Entrati called it the Void Tongue. He feared it was meaningless, and feared more that it was not.
Okay. That's cool. This is a load of barnacles. Is this loot or murder? Loot.
To Master Entrati. His grimoire. No doubt it holds the secrets of the Vessels. And of the Kalimo sequence. Take it, Tenno.
This will probably have no negative repercussions. The book is a weapon? Pick a god and pray.
Active. It is reading you.
When the reticle meter? God! Oh, it's a weapon.
I can
Let's
face
level
the
it.
walls and it's something to see a compendium of knowledge used as a weapon. That means must.
Oh, that's
No
pretty
doubt of
cool.
your skill, at any rate.
Cool. The Omega book.
Very big, very book.
Find the sleeper. What the hell are you up to? Well, sorry, I broke it. Quite a lot. God damn. I hope he didn't want this place to be functional when he got back. What is this thing? What are you? Die. Kalimos. Oh. What, is that legs? What am I looking at? Corn?
A monstrous danger, these labs. Better off sealed. We can only hope the sleeper has been untouched by this vast horror.
Dude, that's cool.
Great indifference.
That's so trippy. What if the sleeper's like a villain? Did we even consider that? Like, what if he's like evil as shit and he's like gonna eat the galaxy or something? These are the things we gotta think about. Just read the grimoire. Usually they top it off with, I mean, it'll say like at the top, I'm a villain or I'm a hero. It's very, oh no.
I ask too much of you, Tenno. These horrors must be stopped.
I can do that.
If these fragments were to unite, destroy them soon, Tenno. Right.
Got him.
Onward.
I mean, y'all gotta pass up with the free focus. This place is cool, man. God, I hate my ears. I need bionic ears that aren't awful. Huh? What? Oh. Unexpected.
A trap? Master Entrati jealously protected his most adored possessions, be they objects or people. Come, a sleeper awaits.
Why would they have a bridge going through the hell train? How many accidents do you think they ever had there? Maybe there were two different times. Maybe the first time we saw at the very start was a failed attempt, and this is the one that they got it right. Oh, this is a different dude. This is the other dude. What's up, Chieftain?
The Kalimo sequence has begun? Did he send you? Is he? No. No, of course he didn't. That would be impossible.
This is, well, Lloyd, the original. All emotional centers very much intact. Did you have a good sleep?
Ah, the helpful Necroloid my Albrecht had made, so that I might have assistance and company. Perhaps that made it easier for him to leave. Resume your duties, construct.
Oh, hater.
Your duties, construct.
Please, follow me.
This is a Tenno, an orphan of the void, continuing the struggle our master abandoned.
A Tenno. A deserter, presumably.
Why are you such a hater?
Is it not aware there's a war going on? So, the war too is just a memory now.
Probably got a bad attitude. My theory was kind of right. Ugh. The mouth. I don't want to go in there.
Tenno, while Lloyd completes his inspections, you'd better meet the Carvia, a reminder of darker times.
Shut up, I'm dancing.
He always hoped the awaited operator would be able to understand them.
Sure. Can I understand you? Norg status, fully alert, brain function exceptional, monitoring nutrients, subject sent into void by a Entrati on mission 3-1. Huh? So is this another new hub? I'm hubbing up today. Lately. You know what I mean. We got another hubby just yesterday. Hello? Overstimulated. Fucking same, brother. Sedative recommended. Revival process ongoing. Subject sent into void by Entrati on mission 3-1. So, A is... What's his name? Albrecht? Hello? Extreme depression. No substitute made available. Species extinct. Imminent... Oh.
Experiment, one might say.
It's okay. We could be friends. You want to be friends? Would that help? At all? Buddy? No. Alright.
Albrecht left a great deal incomplete.
I love cleaning up people's messes. Ha 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 ha. Yup, 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 yup.
Like a book one might one day
Whoosh.
operable. Barely. The sequence dictates I am to wait for their operator. Clearly that cannot be you.
Why?
Oh, it can be. Tenno, Master Entrati's grimoire suggests you are the key. That colorless antique there? Use it.
Jesus Christ. I'm in. I'm out. Why, he seemed just not even an ounce of concern. Okay, hold up.
This isn't right. The transference stream.
I don't like this.
It's being diverted.
Hello? Okay. Bro, what the... I think I saw the trailer for this. I thought it was... Oh, something else. I also did not know it was this. Well, I guess, like I said, I thought it was something else. What? Oh.
Please note, payment processing systems are out. All ticketing stations are shown.
I can't.
Arthur, find a terminal. Check in.
I thought.
I need to know you made it.
Why? I can't walk forward? I can't. It won't let me go forward. And then I left the train. Alright. Really weird. It was... I thought... Wait, now I'm confused. Hold on 1 second. Is this the same thing? So I saw Warframe 1999, and that's what I thought this was. But maybe that... Is it a separate thing? Or is it... just part of this quest? And that's what I didn't understand. This is so strange. It's cool. I'm just...
Feels like there's someone in my head.
That's true. That's true. I can see how you feel that way.
Nearly done with this bitch of a year. I wish we could just start over. Find that Dr. Entrati bastard on day one. Then I wouldn't be alone on New Year's Eve.
Well... Okay. Really insistent on me going the way they want. Even if it's weird and they have to make a piss wall to push me away.
They found me. Keep going, Arthur. Find Dr. Entrati. Follow him into hell if you have to.
Okay. Survive? I don't really feel like it. Uh-oh. Let me out. The computers are demons? Bro, stop pushing me around. Oh, I'm Excalibur. What is happening? Dude, the game is like pushing me around. Like it feels like I'm constantly walking into invisible walls. Like what the I'm holding W. What is going on? Hello? What is with this shit, man? Okay. I mean, it's cool. It's just that all the weird stuff happening is kind of ruining the moment. Yeah, that's fair. Seems like an exhausting affair. Ooh, excuse me. I want the cat to start pawing at the balloon so bad. He just can't help himself. I assume this is Dr. Entrati. You came to him? Damn, he's fresh.
You are late.
Oh. Bro, what the fuck?
So, Albrecht made it to 1999 in one piece.
He was time traveling?
But that thing is still on his heels. Albrecht rarely smiled after his return from the void. And never like that. I smashed the casket for nothing! It followed him anyway!
Huh.
Silence, creatures! It seems the murmur overloaded your connection. Unfortunately for Albrecht's cherished POM 2, not as future-proof as the label claimed. Alas. The murmur. They're attacking the sensory network I installed. Our eyes and ears. To arms, Tenno! Play the warrior, and leave the tactics to me.
Okay.
Construct, I'm awake. Your one responsibility is fulfilled. Be with the family. They must be kept in the state of ignorance to which my Albrecht so wisely consigned them.
But yes, I see. Until we meet again, Tenno.
I mean, open my arsenal. You can do that? I'm about to read on these haters. Is it a secondary? Oh, it is. Yeah, give me one of those. Yeah, give me one of those. Give me one of these. Give me one of those. Give me one of these. Yeah, give me one of these. And, the book, does the book need to reload? Yeah, sure, I don't know. Wow. I mean, this is absurd, but like, pretty cool.
I'd crawl away in shame too if I'd done what Lloyd did. Doesn't that grimoire feel a little light?
I also appear to have my own little shadow man following me around.
The murmur presumes to destroy our auditory and visual senses. In all the time I have been asleep, they have never once been so bold. Ignore the caveat, Tenno.
I will not.
If Albrecht ever understood their babble, he never bothered to share that knowledge with me.
I mean, it could be important. Maybe he knows something we don't. Maybe we should listen more and reject less.
Here they come. After all those years of creepy, silent encroachment, something has changed them, stirred them up.
I mean, it's probably me, right? I do tend to ruin everything I touch in this game.
I suspected they could no longer distinguish between the indifference and himself. In theory, he was really...
What the fuck? Can you leave, weirdo? Anger triangle?
There is a defense system of sorts. Gather enough of the floating Vosphine glyphs, and they should reinvigorate the organs you're here to protect. A fallback system, in case the promised operator never showed up.
Okay. I'm gonna use my good weapon. I don't know, it feels thematically accurate to use the book. And I'm all into that thematic accuracy. But I'm also into not losing. Okay, wait, I gotta murder this triangle. I'm being dumb. I'm gonna lose. God, this is absurd. Oh. Book is a very earth-shaking weapon. What am I even looking at? Leg-ass weirdo. Whoa! The Anatomizer. Very cool. Please leave. God damn.
They're shifting focus. Get to the victory. Look at them. The indifference. He could have given lessons in indifference. Albrecht once thought the Carvia should have been destroyed. Failures all. But he briefly showed reluctance. And I saw no reason to punish them for
Wait.
his negligence. I saw
This is the theme from the... How new is this? Wait, hold up. I thought this was like...
and by the void I shall see the end of these monstrosities.
That came out in December. Okay. But I guess the... I mean, still newer than I thought. So I guess Dante Unbound is related to this, which is why this song is playing. I mean, it makes sense with the book. My God. I feel like the animals are trying to help us, and I don't know, I feel like we should maybe hear them out. Or at least try to parse what they're saying. I think it could be worthwhile. But I think Lloyd is maybe a bit of an asshole. What's going on with the Pillars of Damnation? Should I be worried about this? Stella, Stella, I'm not using this nearly enough. Especially because it's up so often. I don't like legs. It's frightening me.
Dust yourself down, Kevin. We are still alive.
That's too bad.
Rejoin me, and the Kalimo sequence may proceed.
So I guess it's also kind of like the Whispers in the Entrati, where they're kind of also introducing the mission types. Damage to Murmur. Buh. Buh.
You're right, Fish. Lloyd could never figure things out.
See, he gets it.
We have nothing to worry about.
I think we should probably pay it. I'm just telling you, man.
If the Kavir have been babbling our secrets to the Murmur, I shall immolate the lot of them. Promise or no promise? It seems Albrecht said more than we heard. Despite the signal becoming corrupted, his words to you are preserved in the transference buffer. We should extract them. But for that, the POM-2 requires a replacement board. And those are all hidden away in the Netracells. You do understand that accessing a Netracell without a key glyph is completely impossible?
Nope. Alright, presumably another mission type we can learn about. That game, I don't know, I'm sorry. I'm sure what you're saying is extremely important, but I do not speak fish and the game will not let me learn. Hey, buddy. Oh, thank you.
A key glyph. So, the Kavir have
Good boy.
provided the very item we require. Very well. Proceed to the Netracell at your own risk, Tenno. That babbling oddity may be sending you into a trap, and if you do end up in one, I'm afraid you are on your own.
I mean, I would definitely not rely on your bitch ass. You arm these animals, I'll pull your hair out. Violently, aggressively. I don't trust them, man.
Key glyphs are a heavy burden for living beings to Each type will impede you.
Sounds like the dragon keys. Okay. I mean, a little disappointing that they seem to be the same. Oh, I see what I'm doing. I mean, it's kind of sucks that there's like seem to be the variants of other mission types, especially with how new this is. All right, they blow up. Be careful, them blowing up. What the hell was that? Search terminals. Okay. I mean, this place looks great. It's really cool. Oh, they're doing this thing where I can't move forward sometimes again. Oh.
Look at these things. Lying around. Abandoned. Like you, Lloyd.
I'm not Lloyd.
You are his demon, not mine. I won't listen. My apologies, Tenno. I shall refrain from further outbursts.
That's cool, man. It's fine. This place reminds me of that place in Destiny 2. That, I mean, I didn't play much of Destiny 2 because it was Destiny 2. But it's like a big underground area. There's like a giant underground pyramid type thing. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember thinking that place was really cool. There's something about like huge areas in, but while you're underground. It's kind of something so awe-inspiring about it. Okay. They're stealing my controls. Why does that keep happening? It just sometimes feels like things are not responding like they usually do. Go forward! What is going on? Swing this sword! What? My keyboard breaking? It's so strange. Okay, I realized what I was supposed to be doing with these. Let yourself search radius in the road. Sure is, sure was, sure do. Oh my god, he just crumbled. Oh, did I miss one? Hello. Hop on that horse. God damn, what the f... Okay, I see. Okay, so it's not exactly the same mission type, but it's got, it uses the key mechanic, but it's not really the same. Well, I don't know, maybe, is it? I don't think, I would love to move forward. That'd be crazy if I could go forward. Let me. What is this? What is such a strange glitch? Like, let me move up and or forward. It's so strange. Damn. Please, no, please, let me go. What? Is it this? Is it the void stuff? No, that wouldn't make any... I can't move. I cannot. I cannot. I literally... It will not go the way I want it to go. What the I'm not even touching the keyboard now. Hello? Please! Let me control the game, please! I beseech you! Please! Oh! I can't control the video game. Oh! No. Now we're back. Please. Please. I'm not... I'm holding W and dashing it. It's just... It's still... I can void sling, but it still isn't really working. This is absurd. I think mercy killing fixed it. Keep that in mind for next time. Brain. Lotus language actions battery mounted. What? Mounted? Dude, it's breaking again. I can't. Why is this so glitchy? The item pickups are wrong. They're like broken. 30 Lotus language actions battery ammo mutated. Oh no, wait, no, that's normal. That's an arcane thing. I think it's turning my ammo into something else. I think maybe that's normal. It just looks weird and like a string of nonsense.
Albrecht has stored all manner of sentimental old junk in these. Insert the key cliff.
I would fucking love to move normally. Holy shit.
Is diligent. That door won't open while it can sense the murmur nearby. So eliminate them.
You better lose the fucking attitude before I pull your skull off of your head. I mean, your torso. You know the rest of you. Let's hear someone go,
Automated systems are trying to lock down the Netracell.
I want to move normally, please! I have to just keep jumping. The ground here is cursed. I can't, this is so janky. Ugh. I can't move. Why? This, oh my god, this is fucking agony. What is this? This is so weird. I can't. Oh. I need something to mercy kill. You. No. That guy. I changed it to the Drifter, also, just cuz. His weapon is slightly different. I thought it was just gonna be the same, but he actually has like a charge on his gun, which is fine. I don't know how it'll perform compared to just the amp though, which is my big worry. I still can't move properly, and it's actually infuriating. You. No, come back here! No! No! I'm gonna kill myself! Oh. Where are you going? Oh. What is this, man? Come here. Come here. Come here. Is that a reach? Please. Mercy, kill him. Please, let the res fix it. Something, please. Oh, it's worse. How is it worse? Oh my god. The hollow whom? Oh my god. Oh my god. I can't move. Like, is my controller? Nah, it's just sitting there. Let me unplug it. I don't know. No, my controller's not even on. Is it? Well, maybe, is it like some weird controller? This way, just turn it off, right? I don't know. This is my only guess. I don't know why I can't do anything. Vibration. Let's try unplugging it. This is the only thing. I just want to control myself. Is this it? Oh my god, it was. But why? It was just sitting there. Whatever, man. Go ahead, increase the enemy intensity, see if I care. Now that I can actually hurt my foes, I'll never be deterred again. Well, I could always sort of hurt my foes, but I can, like, move now. Oh, bless up. That's so weird. My controller was just sitting on my desk doing nothing. I don't know what happened. Like, it wasn't, like, upside down, like, you know. There's nothing resting against the joystick.
You should have left well enough alone, kiddo. It'll never get better if you keep on picking at it.
Okay. See you.
Excellent. Return to me with the bolt, Terra.
I'm sick of my evil shadow enigmas in video games speaking in riddles and then getting pissed when I don't understand them. You want me to do shit? Talk to me normal, dim ass. Yeah, you dim ass. You're dim and a dumbass. Fucker. All right, back to the book for thematic consistency. I got a little flustered with everything with the weird controller issue. God damn. It was pretty cool overall. I thought for a second that they were kind of just, I don't know, the missions, I thought the mission were a little more copy pasted, but I don't know. It's you know, it's the same thing with a twist, but it's not a huge deal. It's not like I do a huge problem. It's still interesting enough, at least for me. Shrill Voka. What do you call him?
Thank you. A moment, please. Would you do the honors?
Nope.
Arthur? Tenno. Forgive me. I need Lloyd to understand why I had to leave without him. Why I forced him to destroy the device after I had gone. And why I could never say the words he so needed to hear.
I do hate that there's a time travel aspect. Just throwing that up there. Just my least favorite thing.
In the Deimos laboratory, Lloyd would never have been safe from him. You know of what I speak.
Yeah, little shadow
So
fellow.
I retreated to the only place in history where that entity could not easily follow, to draw his greedy eye away from Lloyd. Tenno, I require your trust. Craft the little curio whose blueprints you will find in the computer's memory. Complete the Kalemos sequence. Repair. Rebuild. When the time is right, find me.
Okay.
The skin of a martyr doesn't suit you, Albrecht. If something mattered, she'd have found a way. It's too late. You heard him, Tenno. He requires your trust. So craft the bloody thing.
Start spinning up. So I'm guessing, because there's like the other new quest, the Aoi 1999 that came out a few weeks ago. I'm assuming that's probably the next part of this.
Tick-tock, kiddo.
Oh, hey man.
You don't want to be late again, do you?
Yeah, whatever, dude. Can you leave? You're in the way. Truly, if you have nothing useful to offer, just go. Why is it $19.99? Oh, $19.99. That's okay. All right. All right.
The Jahu Gargoyle.
John Gargoyle?
Bring it back here and we shall examine what Thorn will do to help us.
Hey, yo, who the fuck John Gargoyle? got a mump on his head.
Albrecht may have told you to build that thing, but given how he used people and threw them away, he may not have cared for your safety. If
Yeah, the animals seem
that
obsessed.
Gargoyle is a threat, you must take it from the sanctum immediately. Now, activate it.
The animals seem to be very not for this. I mean, I assume that we're gonna do it anyway, and I can't, you know. Nope, alright, we're probably just about to do something horribly stupid. Here we go. Out of my hands.
Lost.
Oh!
If ignorance is bliss, then you, Tenno, must be ecstatic. Come on then, bring it closer. Wakey, wakey.
Where did that come from? Identify yourself!
Please, Lloyd, let them figure it out. That's it. Here, in the jar. What? The fish with the big brain? Yes, the fish with the big brain. Can we please finally get this?
I was on your side. You don't be mad at me. I knew I was there for it.
Albrecht used you to give the Cavia a voice, just as he used me to keep them alive. Such a resourceful man.
Fibonacci.
So, here we are then. The best of what's left. Clearly, Papa's plan was countered. Color me surprised. Right then. We may proceed with the sequence.
You animals have observed us all this time, have you not? You've given yourself a role in the sequence?
Indeed we have. Oh, come, Lloyd. It's named after Papa's favorite pet. Spare the rod and spoiled. We know the fragmented ones are heralds of the indifference. We know the chosen operator must summon and destroy them. And regrettably, you, Lloyd, have made this impossible.
Choose your words carefully, fish.
Tenno, the grimoire is incomplete. The final page hidden away by Lloyd. Be a darling and retrieve it. That's all. Run it on.
All right.
So be it. The gift of decency was clearly not bestowed upon the Cavia, Tenno.
You're on the talk.
But I cannot deny the page's current status is lost.
Talk. I can talk. Hey, hey. Oh, Mr. Lloyd. Mr. Lloyd. Where is Papa? Why did Papa leave us? Mr. Lloyd.
Papa is gone. We could all be gone too. In an instant. Like, we have to keep quiet.
Okay.
All right.
Allow me to boil this down for you. Should the indifference's corrupting touch reach us and take back our speech, we would be screwed. So, Mia, love, and eradicate the murmur in this patch before
Oh,
the big
just
bad
like,
gets
is that
burned
supposed to
and
look like
Lloyd's
this?
awake, and the fish is talking.
Tenno, there is some truth to what fish says. That page was the last thing my Albrecht ever wrote. Meant for me. Since I had no interest in reading his endless self-justifications, I hid it away instead. But with all this chaos, it's undetectable.
All right. Well, Understood. Kill everybody. Less chaos. That's just math. The more dead everyone is, the more I can think straight. And the book's alright. Definitely not gonna keep using after this, but it's pretty cool. That's exactly what that was supposed to look like.
So long as the indifference is missing a digit, it is confined to the strands of Kra. Don't ask me, your tiny mind would likely pop under the strain of understanding. This
Okay.
is our
Why is everyone here a prick?
Do not patronize the Tenno fish. The strands of Kra are merely void renderings of the chains of cause and effect. Conceptually embodied timelines, if you will.
Yep, you lost me.
Papa's daughter excelled at explaining complicated concepts in childish terms. I see now where she learned it.
Everyone down here is kind of a prick. I was on the animal side. Now they're giving them a voice and they're dickheads about it. Alright, I'm gonna switch back to the bow for better kill speed. Just crit that guy for 97k, I love that. I think I've done my due diligence in terms of the thematic consistency. I gotta put a lens or the lens? Yeah, I gotta put a lens on this thing. God, this thing is ridiculous. And level 30. Toy. Oh no! I'm in a hole! It is so violent in here. I don't really understand what these murmur guys are. Necromex?
The rest of us are moments away from an extinction grim
I'm working on it.
and final. So, if you would be so kind,
I'm
so I can point you toward that sodding page.
Oh my goodness. Mr. Attitude. You're about to get yourself unsaved. Re-silenced. And then I'm gonna heat your water up and boil you.
And then I'm gonna eat you. And then I'm gonna fucking eat you.
In one big bite. Oh. my eyeballs. I'm not above eating the fish if he doesn't work on his attitude. Maybe Lloyd and the fish can... They'll be best friends. The most smarmy douchebags.
It was a long walk towards competence, but here you are. Now please, the page.
This is... I'm going home. I'm never finishing this quest. I'm leaving it uncompleted.
How about you give me the page instead, kiddo? Consider it part of our deal.
What deal? I don't know who the fuck you are. I mean, I know you're me, but like, I don't know who or why or when or how or what. Me picking up a pagey and ukulele? I'm just kidding, that doesn't happen. How absurd would that be?
Keep it to yourself, Tenno. I'm damned if I'm giving Albrecht the last word.
Okay, live in regret and unknowing. Do whatever you want, see if I fucking care.
Wilhelm raps upon the untimed door, and sans grimoire, we are undone.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Weeping rumble.
You shan't be sans grimoire but a mome.
Tenno, are you there? Oh, thank Void. Listen, the Murmur diverted your extraction jump. We need you back at the center now.
Okay.
Hurry!
Oh, that's the edge. That's not where I want to go. Whoops. Oopsie, sorry. I didn't make it back. I fucking killed myself. A common mistake. Sorry, I'm spiraling into the abyss right now. What?
It takes. It took my future. It's taking the labs inch by inch. Well, I won't let it take his bloody caviar.
Maybe let me lead this one, buddy.
The sodding indifference seeks a path through the walls, and then Tenno, through you. Keep it at bay.
Yeah, could've picked up that much. Kill bad guy. Ooh, yeah. How profound, you stupid fish. That seems bad.
The strand holds. The indifference approaches. Soon it will take on mass.
Woo! Yeah, here we go. Oh! Oh no, he's a bug!
There's nothing for you here. Get out! Help!
Tinu! The grimoire must speak with its own voice.
I don't know what the fuck that means. Oh, I see. I brought your favorite. Yes, I love Game of Thrones.
You gave me back my sight, but I would not spare you a glance. You gave me back my voice, but I never spoke to praise you as I should have. For you were my right hand, my strength, my support, my sanctuary. Even when the galleries hurled scorn upon me, your sole desire was to suffer it in my stead.
That seems bad. Carrier is recovered, thank God! Oh, weird ass legs. There's something gross about them. They're weirding me out, man. You alright over here, Lloyd? What's happening? Wow, he fucking sucks. Hello. Would you like to fight again, or? Connect the grimoire to the gargoyle. Yeah, I already did that. What? What, I gotta turn the damn page for it?
On your
What?
first day of service,
I thought we were just fighting. I didn't even notice.
be worthy
I mean,
of
obviously.
I only wish that I could have been worthy of you, my lord.
I mean, this is cool, but it also has the same problem as every other quest I've done, where I don't feel like I understand enough to fully appreciate it, and I don't like that feeling. I mean, we probably have it in us to control this thing. I mean, the other half, weird shadow thing was doing it. Why can't we do it? Alternatively, They really should have just done it. Holding E is really doing nothing for me. Oh, okay. Interesting.
This stillness. Tenno. No. Operator.
The strand of claw has been cut, while the indifference remains undeterred. I foresee a grim and continuing struggle to safeguard Papa's laboratory from its fell and ruinous grasp.
Great.
Indeed. I shall not waver.
Oof.
Protect the vessels. Repair. Rebuild. So runs the Kalimo sequence. And such is our task. In the version of the past we saw, my Albrecht said we were too late. The solution, naturally, is to arrive on time next time. You keep the murmur at bay, I shall fulfill my role. Punctuality. The Entrati family never could arrive on time without my help. And so, here I am, back to my old role, the diligent servant. Albrecht would have smiled at that, I think. He said,
Why do they make me pick choices for other characters? I hate when they do this. I mean, I'm gonna go with that he wasn't worthy, just cause, like, I don't pick based on this scale. I don't care. Like, it just feels like based on the last letter he sent that this is what he would say.
how do I still deserve your tears after all I have done?
We had a deal. The deal was shook. A little handshake, all it took. Though from the deal,
Oh my god, the
the wee child ran.
Yet still, we end as we began.
playing the quest in this game kind of reminds me of playing the campaign of
Must make the best of things.
reminds me of the campaign of Black Ops 3, except at the end of Black Ops 3. At the end of the Black Ops 3, I was like, this is one of the worst stories I've ever played, and it's complete nonsense. And in this, I'm like, it's complete nonsense, but I think it's still really cool, but I don't get it. And it's only, Black Ops 3's story was nonsense because it was bad and was strung together by nothing. This is strung together by a lot, but I don't know where to find it or intake it all, I guess.
Yes. Operator, correct? Drifter, perhaps? You'll find our merry band share that unconventional relationship with their appellations. I am Fibonacci. Papa's design has uplifted me to function as the coordinating factor of this little group. You, may have heard that one of our number was consigned to paradise before our return from the void. Min, Tagfa's mate. Yes, most unfortunate. Too often it is the good and the young who forge our future, laying their lives upon progress's unfeeling anvil. Now,
That's a cool
let
line.
us apply ourselves to the grand work at hand and deny our minds melancholy's frigid caress. To work!
All right. So I can get Amanda now. Some greater lenses. Steel Path.
One struggles to fathom your priorities.
I'm just dancing.
Gather the others. I have something to say to all of you.
Please, remember to hand in any Voca you encounter. You've met the animals? The catastrophe Albrecht saddled me with? Well, any ideas?
Cook the fish.
Their roles were intended to be filled by qualified personnel. People! Instead, we have this. It's bad comedy. They're imprinted with whatever information they need to function, and an understanding of our current state of affairs, including Albrecht's absence. They were sent into the Void using a bell of the same design that Albrecht initially used. The Void got in, somehow. Again. One of the animals was lost, and the rest came back like that. We placed
Okay, so
them
the
in
bell wasn't the
stations
time
hiding
machine
at
thing. I got that
frontiers.
mixed up at the start.
For them, the disaster, intelligence, and selfhood all occurred only hours ago. They're psychological shrapnel, and they're all we've got. See what you can do with them. I simply do not have the time. A fresh opportunity to continue my Albrecht's work.
Okay, so
Maybe
Voca.
I'm quite content down here, I assure you.
I could trade for.
A chap has to have his space. Very good, Denner. We truly have accumulated a bewildering quantity of stuff.
Purchase for 50k and 200. So you're three random arcanes from the following. Oh. I wish I could see what they did.
I'll just put this. I cannot lie, Tenno. I have always felt nervous in the presence of Orphanes. The Orokin twisted people into weapons, and I've seen firsthand the bloody and well-deserved consequences of that act. Dante, though.
Oh.
In his company, I felt no such anxiety. He was warm, earnest, literate, a fellow seeker. To know that he perished in these very halls while I slept is a bitterness to me. Old shapes of song that do not die shall haunt the halls of memory. Oh, I'll just pop off and find something to dust, shall I?
Okay.
All satisfactory, I
Let's work on the attitude. What do you do,
These
bro?
things for anyway. Mr. Tagfer is very still and very quiet, like a dead thing.
This bird's got a dump truck ass.
Jungle. He must be practicing. Mr. Tagfer? Wow, he's really good at that. Dead thing. Is Min a dead thing? Can my friends be dead things? Can I be a dead thing? Oh, Papa will bring her back. Papa can do that. Papa won't let us be dead things. Papa, Bark loves us. Yes, Bark. Yes, Bark. Bark. Mr. Fishinacci. He'd know. Papa Papa's plan. Papa's plan, he said. So,
Oh, Bert's having an existential crisis. Very fun.
You got it.
Allows a helmet to fuse Archon shards into more powerful variants through Coalescent Fusion and Ascent Fusion. Huh? What?
One minute, I existed only to eat and flee and breed. The next, I was me. But men, did men have time to be men? Before she and I, we were the last. Did you know that? Without her, there's no more us. No more Tagfer and men. No soft calls. No gentle nuzzling muzzle. No little Tagfers. No little mins. Ever.
Jesus, man.
Fibonacci says we have to trust that it's all part of Papa's plan. How? Why? And now I have a purpose. So the fish says, to help you in the ways in which I have been instructed. But all I want is to be with her. Min.
You alright, man? Jesus Christ.
Settling the score with Albrecht won't bring Min back. I'm not stupid. You gotta understand, I'm not doing it for me, or her, or Lloyd, or any of us. I'm doing it because it needs doing.
Oh my god. Tagfer needs
Papa
to...
never wanted anyone to know what he was up to. That's why he built the Netra cells. Little hideaway vaults. Not even Lloyd knows what he got up to in there. I want to know. I can get you into the anchor hold, where Albrecht stored all his key glyphs. They're on a rotation timer. Only one Netra cell can be opened at any given time. And before you can do that, you've got to find the Netra cell and neutralize any opposition. Impossible for a guy like me, but maybe not for someone with a working pair of opposable thumbs. What do you say? Are you sure? Is everything okay?
Don't worry about yourself, man. How do I get this freaking animal therapy? He needs grief counseling stat. Jesus.
Tenno, the Warframe Corvex was designed by my Albrecht's own hand to protect the chosen operator from the hazards of his laboratory. This design is yours.
Who the fuck is this?
I intend to keep the promise I made to him. When the time is right and the equipment prepared, I will assist you to travel back to the past, to the pivotal year of 1999. Perhaps, between us, we may change history.
Hey, the time travel story.
The Laverian. It was floundering. You understand?
Ugh.
Going under. All that work I put into it, and so few visited, let alone donated. Oh, I don't mean you, of course. I know you're a friend to the Laverian. it just wasn't enough. So when Parvos made me an offer,
Oh.
I thought,
God, I
why
fucking
not?
hate this effect. Oh, so nasty.
Just
I
let
hate
it
the way that looks.
Let it all go. I took the deal, Tenno. I shouldn't have, but I did. Oh, if only Dante was still around. Please, you must come see me.
Operator, Ordis is sorry. Happy to report that all my good jokes are gone.
So, wait, is this Laverian thing another quest? Doesn't seem like it. Nothing new appeared. I'll look in that in a second.
Chosen operator, a friendly suggestion. You could do so much more with those melee weapons of yours. I donate my wisdom on both tool and technique. Listen well. Tennokai, a fighting technique fusing void and bestial instinct. Raw power. While I have never used Tennokai, I understand it perfectly. Somewhat of a mind master.
Okay.
If so, that lost materials pertaining to Tennokai have been stored just out of my reach in the sanctum. Tools. Papa was not one to rest. Use this segment to unlock more potential for your arsenal. The arcane was an art and science that Papa studied well. The convexity of my bowl, a magnifying glass on his research, and now your gain. Install this segment, acquire melee arcanas, find Tennokai modules, and observe the results. A swift deletion of your foes.
Oh, they're not. Were there not melee arcanas before this quest? I didn't even realize there weren't melee arcanas. Yes. I don't have any. Bane of the Murmur. Bane of the Murmur. Of the Murmur. I feel like I probably don't need Thunderbolt. 30% chance to explode. Kind of. I think it already do that. Nope, I already have Prime Shred, right? I don't know. Should I go for an elemental effect? Like Stormbringer and... Sure. You had Stone's face. My flow's only abrasive when I overload the breaker. So, oh, a 7. Oh my god. Brilliant item shot. Oh, it's expensive. Let's upgrade this. Let's do more damage. I don't know, I might switch back to the operator just because I mean, Drifter's cool, but I think I like the laser more as opposed to the other thing. Wait, let me unlock this. And then we'll work our way towards these. Let's get some move speed. Sure. And then, yeah, okay. Alright. Cool quest, but, you know, kind of the same hang up I always have with these. Where I'm like, it's cool, but also I don't get it to a degree. Complete the Veilbreaker quest and equip a rank 30 Warframe.
No.
I assume this is like the other thing where these missions will just change. Alchemy. Where we at? 2 hours?
Flash and bite. The day is won not with a strike to the heart, but 100 cuts about it.
I mistyped the shit of that. Veilbreaker, 20 to 30 minutes. Alright, let's do it. I don't want to start a new quest and like I don't know how long they are, so I just want to make sure that I don't like cut it off by like with the stream ending. Is this, what was his name, Call? You think it's him? We're gonna be best friends. Damn, his gams are bodacious. What, penis? I think that's him. Daughter Andrade gets more than she bargained for when she enlists the Tenno to investigate a call for reinforcements aboard a Narmer Mirix. Let's do it.
Nora Knight keeps saying Narmer isn't dead.
I don't like that.
Someone new is at the top. All she knows is a name. Pazul. Well,
Pazuki.
guess what, Tenno? I have a lead.
You turn your music off when you're recording a voicemail?
Broadcast from inside a Murex. It only says one thing over and over again.
Eating a burger with no honey mustard. Eating a burger with no honey oh.
It's probably one of the freedom fighters Nora keeps talking about. If they made it into a Murex, they have to know about Pazul. Come on, Tenno, say you'll help.
Ugh. Don't do that. Damn, I'm epic. Okay.
Whoa, the inside of a Murex. Organic scaffolds, node-based circulation. But
So true,
on a
so
scale
true.
I never thought possible.
So true. This is not a door.
Jason network means I'm scanner blind in here. Knock it out, and I'll pinpoint the location of our messenger. When Ballas and Narmer struck the system, I was ready to do something.
Ballas and Narmer? I thought Ballas was Narmer. I don't understand.
Family said we have to guard the heart of Delos. I spent the entire war laying low in the necrolis, listening to Nora Knight talk about those brave few fighters who were out there doing exciting things. Not this time.
Sure.
Sentient fighters can adapt to your attacks. Hit them with something else.
Did that guy just get smushed by the damn door? What an idiot. What an idiot. What a funkin' idiot. Alright. Adapt to that, loser. What the fuck am I looking at?
Kyle, I think that's the central hub of the Medusa network. Without a scanner feed, you'll need to figure out how to disable it on your own.
I blow it up. Oh, what the? No. Oh, shit. Did I do it?
That's it.
Yeah.
Triangulating distress beacon. There. The signal originates from the other side of the Murex.
Ugh.
I hope they're not too frightened to talk.
Oh, I don't have to walk. Unless I get to play as Clumbo. I'm Climbus.
Don't be afraid. We're here to...
Call not afraid. Call need brothers. Queen said blue girl?
Damn.
That rat? I can't believe I expected to find out who Pazul is. I'm an idiot.
Call no Pazul.
Excuse me?
Call need gun. Find call gun. Call tell about Pazul.
Of course. Call, was it? There. Marking a weapon signature.
Called eat gun. Called eat gun. Gun delicious. Many calorie.
Call finish you.
That's true, he did. How I feel about that. I hate this writhing mass. Ugh. Call's always up to some shit, man. I'm glad that his story kind of is being expanded upon. I was disappointed that there wasn't more about him in the new war.
First, I need you to tell me about Pazul.
Call fine brothers. You help. Then talk.
Brothers? Brothers was not what we agreed to. You said gun. I got you your gun. Now tell me about Pazul.
Find brothers. Then talk.
Call, you're being a little unreasonable, man.
Ugh, perfect. The field your brother is locked in is entangled with complex restraints. Get close. I'll use your signal to target a dissipation beam.
Call know what to do. Scoom!
Scoom! I was just thinking that. Just scoomed on, loser. And I'm just scooming on him.
Need to get in position.
Oh. getting owned? Actually, I'm doing fine, but I feel like I'm getting owned, which is not a great way to feel. Okay, stop swinging. Uh-oh.
Call that a fight? Brother, wake up. Call, give orders now. Come.
Call. Where you lead, Rock follow.
Hell yeah. Plant the damn bomb. Give command.
Move now. Brother did good.
Hell yeah, brother. Yeah, brother. Yeah, brother.
Cats are good at destroying things. Shocking.
Blue girl. Where are others?
Grenier have a lot of brothers, Call. They're not all going to fit aboard my friend's lander. I don't know how, but you need to find a way across.
Get bigger ship.
Call good at platforming.
Scans show what appears to be a Grenier dropship, but
Hell yeah.
might not even be operational.
Call make work. First, find all brothers. Call 180. Same tube.
Boost me over.
You go there.
No, 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 no. Throw me across. Oh, I'm supposed to actually look at the body now.
Elliot Peck.
Ah.
How hard could be? Push through pain.
Oh, we're doing it. Didn't even notice I started. Blunt on him. Yeah.
Blue girl need call in that spot.
Ooh! Oh, wow, this thing's got some range.
A little bit longer.
Call need to be in 2 places.
I understand. Hell yeah. I want a Warframe spin-off, and it's Pikmin, except the Pikmin are Grenier. And I want it done yesterday! Get freed?
For the queens.
Who?
No. Queens abandon us.
Hell yeah.
For brothers now.
Hell yeah! Brother, you are posting cringe.
Call know what Vale like. Nobody deserved Vale.
Damn, Khan's a real one.
Need to get in position.
Okay, don't have that much range. I'm stuck. Okay. I can't shoot.
Brother to other spot.
Oh, right. Command mode. Someone stay here. No, that's not what I wanted. Get away. I can't shoot. I can't attack? I can't do anything? None of my inputs are registering. Except hitting G. Oh, there we go. Maybe I was in command mode still? I don't know. No, I told you to stay... Go down there. What am I paying you people for? Rog, no! Rog, don't be a hero!
That's everyone. Can we go now? Dropship marked.
He's just gonna be a homie? We're just cool? Alright. That's fine. That's, you know. Surprisingly quick to work together is all. Unexpectedly so. Regroup, gamers. Ugh. Why? They're just pools of writhing agony on the ship. You took 9 damage, my man. Relax. Are y'all with me? Slow ass. Rog, you're doomed. I'm just gonna throw it out there. You don't have a goddamn chance.
On the Volcor, and of course, it's held in place by a tether node. I've devised an 8-step plan to evade security and gain access. Step 1.
Can brother bomb node thing? No time, blue girl. Call due. Brother, take point. Call taking fire.
Oh god, you give me young kid.
Good boom, brother.
Good boom, brother! No, he's right though. No. I gotta click it and then turn off command mode. Nope. Command mode just is turning on and off on its own. I'm not hitting G, it just keeps it kept turning on and off on its own. Okay. I don't even know if my input is. Please. No, obviously that's not what I wanted. Now turn off command mode. Res my homie. Crush alien scum. Dude, this thing does not respond properly. I hit G to turn it off and then it just doesn't. I don't know, it's a bit weird. It's very finicky. Okay, alright.
Good boom, brother.
Good boom, brother. Shoot node thing. Leave me alone! Yo, shoot this. No, shoot it. Okay, I can't tell them to shoot it. For reasons that are unknown to me. Okay, turn off command mode. Kill all my foes. Res my homie. Good boom, brother. We're fine, relax.
We fight for no queens. We fight for brothers.
Yeah! What is this pointing me to? Was that not? I thought the dropship was that ship it was like tied to back over there. Oh,
I
okay.
can pilot this thing remotely, but I need you to man the guns.
Okay.
That tether node still has a grip on you. Take it out.
Now, find the other brothers.
What?
Make any more stops and you risk everyone you already saved. And you still haven't told me about Azul.
Blue girl have brother? Would she leave him to die?
You're loyal. I'll give you that. Plotting a course to the second Narmer holding facility. Hold on tight.
Oh my goodness. Can I get? I want to call on my Railjack crew.
Hull integrity dropping.
Well, fly better. Apparently, I can't land a shot to save my goddamn life. Hello? I'm in you? Okay.
Losing control. Call.
Brothers, get out, Call. Not take this forever.
Oh, that was supposed to happen, I guess.
Call tell you about Azul.
Not now, Call. I'll see if there's another way to get you and your brothers out of here.
Okay, I was gonna say. Some of my shots just were not going through. That's okay. As intended, I guess. Call's a real one, man. Holy shit. Brothers, I'm coming to find you. Huh? Oh, the screaming of the damned, very pleasant. I can't see shit.
Blue girl need Call in that spot.
Assuming they're gonna open up another spot in a second, is ready to go there.
Need to split up. Call go there. Brother go there. Stay down.
I'm legit about to release my damn brother. Oh.
Time for revenge, brother.
Oh, I don't like that. Need blunt. So true. So true. Carl loves smoking the devil's lettuce. This place is very disorienting.
Blue girl need call in that spot.
I don't. Did I? Okay, yeah. I feel very overwhelmed here.
Must send brother to other spot.
Res each other. Why do you need me to do it? You got 3 of you over there. Or 4 of you even. One of you can res. Bro, this team!
More wound, more scar. Go to place. Your brothers wait.
Call, I've called in a favor. Get to the hangar and you just might live.
Calling a favor from who?
Railjack, just up ahead.
Me!
Brothers trust Call. And Call trust you. Brothers, get in.
You can trust me, Carl. I'm not gonna murder you while you sleep. Maybe a little.
No teleport. Call, go old-fashioned way.
Meaning? Yeah, what about everyone else? Alright, we can just assume they made it, I guess. Is this Pazul? God damn, what the f- Hell yeah! Gang shit.
Well executed. Call, this is Blue Girl. Did my friend get you all set up?
Tenno is friend. Call tell Blue Girl about Pazul. Body is dead worm. Head like animal.
Dead worm. Is that all?
No, head like animal. Are you not listening?
Want kill Pazul? Find brothers. Break veils. Kill Narmer. That what Call do.
Fine, I'm in. We'll get more done working together. Face it, that rat. You need me.
If Narmer make veils, Call and Blue Girl. Break them.
What? Oh, I see. We're on the other. Okay, that was really trippy. Yeah, what's up, man?
Who helped Grenier today? Not Queens, not Vahek. Tenno and Blue Girl help brothers. Other brothers still have Veil, so Call break. This camp little, but soon it get big. You see. Call not afraid, and now Call not alone.
All right.
nothing come here. No worm. No Grineer.
Sabotage time call. I've located the Veil Factory and Orvalis is crawling with Deacon, so you need to be sneaky, no guns. You want me to stealth?
Call ready to deploy.
I don't know if I want to do missions playing as this guy.
Good working with Tenno.
But cool that it exists. I don't know. I just exited the game. That's not correct. That actually closing the game. I mean, it does take you back to your orbiter in a way, but not the way I want. Just close the game. I might end again. I might end stream again a little early. I'm so scattered tonight. Ugh, I don't know. Or you're gonna start hunting Archons. Now that's not. I am. My brother's designed a new Hellman segment for you. Build, install it, then give it a shard to work with and enjoy. Of course, you'll need to be on speaking terms with your Hellman in order to do this. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably should be spending a bit more time on Deimos. You know, what with Call doing the intel gathering on the ground, me running Russian command, and you all ready to take down the Archons, this team is synergizing quite deliciously. Don't say that. Are we on speaking terms with our helmet? I don't think we are. I guess there's more we can do with it.
Operator, no! Have you lost your mind?
Wait. Should I be getting rid of this thing? I never know. I think there's something with the helmet that I need to discover still. Cause I've seen like people like with like a menu in here like doing stuff. I think I just don't have it unlocked yet. That might be something I add to the list of things I want to check out, but it also depends on how much there is to it. Are we almost done all the quests? Are these the last two? No, there's still... Oh no, I can't do this now. I guess I did. Yeah, I did the... Are we... Maybe we're almost done.
Operator, Ordis wonders, what are you thinking about?
I didn't realize the... I guess I thought the story was further along. I don't know. I guess I assumed it was... I don't know how to word what I mean. I thought it was further along, but not in a way, I don't know, not in a way that, I don't know, that almost sounds disparaging. I didn't realize, I don't know, everything in Warframe felt so far from me, like all the end game stuff, and like, not just end game, but also like, late game questing, I guess. It felt so far from me, so the fact I'm now sort of within it and like kind of caught up, feels weird. Okay, so now I can hunt Archons. God fucking damn. Okay, well, hypothetically, I can. In practice, probably I get bodied, but it exists. There's some super late game shit that I am not ready for.
Well put together, Operator. Now get out there and... cut down the... and make the Lotus proud.
Cool. Oh, I have to make it. I thought I just got it. It was a blueprint. Okay. Permanently enhance various stats. What? Oh. Oh. Cool. All right. I think let's end with
more for me.
Dude, doing a rescue while also doing the Kuva flood sounds so noxious. Actually, where am I at right now? I feel a little spread thin doing all these quests. Let me take a step back. Consult my list of things. So my goals, I still need to figure out what the Steel Path is. Sortie, Great Island Hunt, beat the Coolidge, and the Moa thing. I don't know, I'm kind of having second thought. I might do the Moa thing off camera. I feel like it's just going to be like the same as making like a gun, where you just kind of farm the pieces, put them together, etc., but... So I might not get that achievement. It feels like it's probably just... I assume it's that. Which, if so, I'm kind of, I don't know, a little disappointed with how often this is kind of reused. Again, craft merch.
Your ambition is the acquisition of a new edition. I'm just the patrician to hear your submission. Pets, mowers, we've got them all.
Yes, it is. It's the same thing. Okay. All right. Well, then I'm gonna say for the Moa achievement, never mind. I'm not gonna bother. I mean, it's the same. It's the same as making like any weapon. You just put the pieces together, and yeah. So I'm not gonna. I'm gonna say never mind to that. So 3 achievements I want to try to do. Because the reason I picked the achievements was for like the alternative like gameplay of like the experience it provides. So I don't really want to. Like getting a Zal was kind of the same as getting a Moa, just with different parts and different things. So that's something I'll probably do on my own time. If I'm ever hunting achievements off stream, which probably will happen eventually. When I'm not playing like 8 different games at once. Hey, buddy. So that means we got to finish all the quests. Want to beat our Kuvalich. What is this? I don't know. Okay.
Oh, no. Don't make me forgive you. Not again.
So... yeah, I just need more Requiem mods. I think that's all there is to it. Cause I think I have 1. I got 2 off stream. But I think I only have 1 that has a thing I need. I wonder if you only have to get them once, though. So if I get Yahoo, then I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Operator, Ordis is sorry. Happy to report that all my good jokes are...
Alright, so I need 1s and 2s, and then a bunch of Void Traces. Like, we could just go for it without the Void Traces, I guess, but ugh. Okay. Actually, you know what? I don't know, I feel like maybe we can handle this. Legendary Core. I don't know what that means. Let's do one of these. Let's send one of these. I feel like we're I mean, maybe strong enough. We've been doing level 50 to 60 stuff. I really have a problem with the game being like oh, this mission's level to 50 to 60, but your max level is 30. It's like, it just doesn't... Oh yeah, we're fine. Now, when it gets up to like a level 100 and stuff, then... Did I shoot the guy through the wall? I'm cheating? Well, he locked my ass out. Oh my god. Okay, I'm glad I got this bow. I'm hitting them so hard, and they're still taking multiple hits, and which is concerning because, like, this is like 50 to 60, and it gets up to 100 or something. Which I'm like, I don't know if I can hang at that level, but I'm gonna try. Because doing a sortie was one of the things I wanted to try before I was done with the game. Hello. Alright. I gotta put a lens on this thing. I will say, I mean, it probably goes without saying, but after I finish my I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to say playthrough because it's not. I'm not like finishing the game. It's, I mean, it's an MMO. Kind of. I mean, yeah, but like sort of. I guess I don't know. You know what I mean. Like when I finish this, when I'm satisfied with my with my stream experience of this game, I will be. If I play off camera, I'm gonna be playing with like way less limiters. Because now I only do like Nightwave and like. Farming that I've dictated that I'm doing before I do it. Like, you know, with the Requiem Relics and stuff. But I think I'll probably just do whatever. But that's also, again, like I don't know. I have so many games I have like a list of games that are like active, like I'm playing right now that I haven't finished. And every time I look at that list, my heart stops beating. Just for a moment. And then it turns back on, and I'm like, okay, well, I gotta beat these video games before I start new video games. And then I, like, start new video games anyway, and then it stresses me out, and it's this horrible loop. It's a weird thing to be stressed over, but it is. That's the way it is, you know. I don't know, I was like... Like, I don't like, I have a big backlog of games, but that's not really a problem for me. Like, I don't mind being late. I don't mind playing things as I have time. It's the games that are just, like, not finished that I'm just like, ugh. So I got a very on and off 100% of the Katamari, Katamari Damacy Reroll. Which, like, I was playing it. I was trying to get out of my room more, so I was playing it downstairs at the kitchen table, but I started to hate leaving my room because I hate living here, and it makes me constantly upset to be anywhere that's not in my room, but let's not get into that. So I stopped playing it, and then I was playing other stuff, and then I was playing like Evoland 2, which did not like. So that's 2 games, and then I was trying to 100% Pac-Man Museum Plus, which is taking me forever, and that game is surprisingly fun. Pac-Man is not one to be trifled with. That guy's a little freakazoid. If you thought Pac-Man was to be trifled, then you are a fool. Much like I was. Then there's all like the stream games I'm playing. I think one of the things I did way too often, like when on stream, I guess way back, is like, oh, I'll do, you know, I'll put the stream on hiatus and or like with Darkest Dungeon, I was like, oh, I'll get to a late game off camera. And then I just like put it off and never get to it. I don't know. It's such a non-thing to be stressed over, but it's like, it's also stacked on top of my already ever-present mental health problems. So it just like all adds up, and it's just like just so much mental bandwidth. I also I cannot find a way to organize my Notion pages in a way that does not give me a fucking aneurysm. And I thought it was an ADHD thing, but I looked up like, oh, like how do people with ADHD sort their Notion pages? And I was like, oh, it must not be an ADHD thing, because if my shit was like this, I'd be dead. I mean, more power to them, but for me, oh my god, no thank you. Alright, so mission 1 was fine. Did I get anything? Was that mod I got the thing? Or is it after? Completing all 3... Oh, when you do all of them, you get one of these. Okay. So that's 65 to 80, a rescue. Conditions, Eximus Stronghold. Void energy vortex is passing through this location. Warframe energy capacity and regeneration will be severely reduced. Okay, that's fine. I don't really know. I still don't understand what a sortie is. I mean, it's kind of... I love Warframe. Big problem with it is just like just a whole lack of understanding of what the fuck's going on, even at the best of times. I kind of want to do the Umbral stuff. I mean, I guess it's not better is like the problem. Actually, no, because I don't have the space. I don't think I have enough to upgrade Blind Rage, but I will try. Oh! No! Ooh! Yeah. What do I have?
Operator, Ordis has determined the secrets to happiness. A combination of heightened dopamine levels.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Terrible memory. You're welcome.
I mean, I think I need points in everything, so I need focus in everything. So why not? Let's give this a go. See how bad it is. See how thoroughly I get dumpstered. 65 to 80. Ugh. But it's a rescue, so we can get in, get out pretty quick.
One of our allies has been trapped by an ancient Orokin security system.
Nice. Oh. My foes are still being harmed. I think my least favorite thing about these quests, other than the general lack of understanding, I hate that there seems to be a time travel element that they're approaching. I despise time travel stories. But we'll see. I'll, you know. We'll see. Kill drones or ospreys with your melee weapon. Oh, okay. I can do that. Is that my night wave? I guess I missed it. Oh yeah, easy peasy.
It's going down, kid.
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. Hurry up. You are running out of time.
What? Hello? I got spotted instantly? Oh shit. Fuck. Open the damn door, man! What the fuck?
Use those consoles to change the destination of the vault portal. One of them has to lead to our agent.
Ugh, I'm fucking screwed. Sometimes lucky. Ah, yeah. Nope. Alright. Mission failed. Very good.
They killed the hostage.
Nice.
Mission is a failure.
Well, was it supposed to start counting down as soon as I opened the door? That seemed not how spy missions work. So I think I didn't realize. I guess the sword. I mean, it makes sense. I didn't realize the sword is like, or how often they reset or change. But it looks like it's almost. Yeah, 19 hours. So I think. I mean, I don't really want to go overtime, but I think if we're. I mean, we may as well try to commit to it at this point.
While searching vault portals for lost artifacts, Tenno Ally has been trapped by a long-forgotten Orokin security mechanism. Rescue this agent.
Now, if I could just get past the whole hacking phase, we got no problems. Hello.
The security system is waiting to release our agent to Orokin authorities. Authorities were long dead.
I wonder how much of a difference arcanes make. Maybe that's what I should be farming for instead of worrying about. Well, I was gonna say new weapons, but I guess I'm not really worried about that. I don't know. I feel like this and the Kuvalich thing are the only like really late game difficult things I need to worry about. I just don't have any idea how much stronger, if any stronger, I need to be for it. Or if I'm completely capable with what I have now and I just need to get good. Jesus.
Hurry up. You are running out of
Okay.
time.
Nope, I don't have time. But I also don't have the health for this. Unless... Bro! Gotta shoot the turrets first.
Quick, use those consoles to change the destination of the vault level. One of them has to lead to our agent.
Hello? Oh, I thought I was freaking seeing things. Okay. Hello? Come on, man. No way.
They killed the hostage.
What?
This mission is a failure.
I don't know if there's something different about this opening sequence that I don't get, or if I just needed to hit all of them and get lucky. But it is hard to tell under a time crunch.
One of our allies has been trapped by an ancient Orokin security system.
Loser! Whoa, rock!
Scavenger has been snared by a long dormant Orokin security system. It's our duty to see that they make it home safe.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not really good at this whole save people thing. Alright, let's try again.
The hostage is almost out of time. Hurry.
Nice, dude. Nice, dude. Well, I'm slowed.
Quick, use those consoles to change the destination of the vault portal. One of them has to lead to our agent.
Please. Alright. Like, I don't have to... I don't know. Yo, get lost, man! What the... I'm so fucked. Oh! Well, where'd my mouse go?
They killed the hostage.
Good!
This mission is a failure.
Good! Good. Alright, well... I'm just... whatever, man. We'll try another time. That's only one mission deep. Alright, so I don't know, unless there, I mean, there could be more than this. I don't know when the new quest will pop up. The Sands of Inaros, Mask of the Revenant. And then maybe we're done with them all, and then we'll, yeah. I'll keep trying to get Requiem relics off stream and Void Traces, and then we'll, hopefully... And once the quests are done, we'll hopefully be in a position to see if we can try to fight the Kugelich, but we might have to do a bit on stream. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm trying to keep the repetitiveness on stream to a minimum. He says after failing the same mission 3 times. Thanks for watching the stream. Have a lovely evening, and I'll catch you next time. Oh, my heart stopped beating. Phobos Kuva Fortress. feel devoid of life. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Should we try an Archon hunt? Bonuses. Equinox. Is that a... Oh, you get bonuses for using certain things. So if you bring a Helicore, an Axe Stiletto, or Cobra, and...
Is picking up a distress signal. Wait, no. It's just the Corpus peddling their wares again.
What is this?
Get off the emergency frequency.
Oh, it's kind of like a sortie where you gotta work up to it as well. But it's way harder and I fucking suck at... Ugh. It's so... Your max level on everything is 30. But this mission requires about a level 145 to 160 power. What does that mean? I don't know. Figure it out. Just get good, loser. Just having no gauge of where I'm at is really frustrating. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we were doing okay. In terms of fighting, I, for some reason, struggled to... I don't know, like, I can't tell if I was unlucky or if there was just something about that hacking sequence that I just didn't understand. But, whatever, it's fine. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening, and I'll catch you next time.